Hi, everybody. Happy thanks midnight, burning the midnight oil. Um, but I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. We're so thankful for really to God. God's hand is all over this case, all over this case. And when you have God behind you, when you have God with you, over you, around you, what do you have to fear? You don't have anything to fear. You can go forward and, with faith, knowing that justice will happen. And that includes a lot of answers, a lot of answers. And that's what we have gotten. And so we're very grateful and we keep going. It's not over yet. Matter of fact, I think we're still at the beginning of all of this, believe it or not, because getting accountability is the end game here, and the death penalty absolutely needs to be on the table. And you see President Trump fighting like hell, um, with the same conclusion when the investigation and the evidence confirming that we're against monsters. And these monsters just want to do a lot of harm. They are just up to no good. They just want to do a lot of harm. And lives are at stake, and futures are at stake, and countries, peoples are at stake because as El Paso goes, so goes Texas. As Texas goes, so goes the United States. And as the United States goes, so goes the world. And we really believe that. We believe that El Paso and White Sands is the epicenter. Um, and, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed. And you can tell that it's the epicenter because everybody's afraid to mention Richard's name, right? They're afraid on the news to mention Richard's name. And it's so big. It's so big with uh, all of our criminal complaints and notices and um, everything that we have done in these almost 6 years. It's going to be 6 years. Um, well, 5.5 years, right? 6 years since Richard started his whistleblowing. So yeah. So let's see if everything is working. And we'll get started. Uh, we have some really interesting stories out right now. Thank you so much. And it includes Miss Universe, right? Miss Universe, which, we've been reading about it, trying to keep up with it, trying to put pieces together with it. It's an investigation. It's absolutely very, very important to Richard's case. And so we're going to try to tell you why. Because, our son's case is pretty convoluted. I guess that would be the right word. It's convoluted, and we've even taken hits because people have said, "Oh, it's connected to your son's case. Oh, it's connected to your son's case," and we would say, "Yeah, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Evidence confirms it is connected to our son's case," and that's why El Paso and Juarez, Chihuahua, seem to be really the epicenter of the battle that we're facing for our future. And so this is. Do I wish that it was like this? No, no. It would be so much easier and simpler to get answers um, for our son. But you can tell in these last 5.5 years, uh, the level of cover up, the level no other case has had so many agencies involved and so many people shaking, absolutely shaking, at the mention of Richard Halliday's name. It's just been, really, jaw dropping to see, and to experience. And it has gave us all the indications that this was something big, and now the evidence has confirmed it's something very, very big. So I'm going to try to explain how this, uh, you know, beauty pageant to a whistleblower, how it connects. Again, with almost everything going on in the world, it seems to connect back to El Paso and Fort Bliss um, and the criminal trafficking, and everything that entails, because the criminal trafficking is just a little part of it now, isn't it? So we'll start on day 1,944 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And he was taken to the arms room. All evidence indicates that he was taken to just the basement room, the basement arms room where they would keep their weapons. It's a soundproof room, and they took his life. They took his life, and then from there, they stole his remains and they desecrated his remains, and they trafficked um, him to Mexico, an international move. Could they do it? Oh, yeah, because we know now with the whole funeral home scandal that they absolutely have transnational transport of remains all the time. That was part of their scheme, their fraud, cashing in on unidentified migrants and on the U.S. side, and unidentified migrants on the Mexican side using the same remains, right? Because if they're unidentified, they're just unidentified. And if you have um, cartel tied, Mormon faction cartel tied individuals controlling these seats and these agencies that are very important, that are committing fraud, like Delia Briones, right? You have Delia Briones, that is, she's the county clerk for El Paso, and evidence confirms that she's committing fraud. I mean, you've got the 2028 stamp for James Bonneau Montoya, another indication of fraud because, he's not using his right name. So all of these documents are, and his campaign and everything was built on fraud, absolute fraud. So so let's go into this beauty, because I'm sure everybody has a full belly from Thanksgiving and they're tired, and but we don't have time to sleep. I mean, you can see that sometimes, I mean, it's very you can see it. And I just was watching a little video clip of President Trump um having a moment where you can tell that he has no time to sleep, because he's trying to catch the bad guys, right? He's trying to catch the bad guys, and that's what we're trying to do. um uh, really, we want them prosecuted. We've been investigating, we've been identifying the crime, documenting the crime, filing the crime, and now we want them prosecuted. And that's the hard part, because the prosecutors have been infiltrated, right? And clearly, James Bonneau Montoya, calling a victim a prostitute, right? Calling a victim a prostitute in the Mario Ortiz Zaroldi case is totally indication of how infiltrated our 34th Judicial District Attorney's office is. to have such a fraud, a fake, a in control of that office, when he's illegal, right? Mr. 2028 stamp, and that's confirmed by his own paperwork, right? His own paperwork, which you can FOIA, because he works for us. He works for us, and all of that paperwork should be absolutely transparent and should be posted. It should be posted, and because they're trying to sabotage transparency in the United States too. They're trying to go through the AG's office all the time, or they don't want to answer you, and then you have to fight to prosecute those, or shine a light on those that don't want to be transparent, which they have to be transparent because they work for us. And I know there is exceptions to the rules, but I'm just telling you that there's something going on where they don't want to be transparent. They're not even listing the last names of these criminals. We're having to do the hard work. When these cartel names come out, they don't want to list the last names. They don't want to list the full name of this. They do. Thank you, Laura. You're right. Thank you for coming on so late. They want to overthrow our government. Donna, thank you. And happy Thanksgiving to you, Donna. We love you. So yeah, this and there's no time to really stop and pause totally for a holiday. We had a great day. We are so blessed with such a beautiful family, big family. And so it was really a beautiful day. But this is always on our minds because we we see the bigger picture that we are obligated as Americans to seek justice for Richard, because if we don't, look what they did to our military. Look what they did to our soldier. Look what they did to our military. Look what they're doing to our beautiful city of El Paso. Look what they're doing to Texas. And as Texas goes, so goes the United States. As the United States goes, so goes the world. So we are absolutely, we have to keep going day in and day out. And we appreciate your prayers because I can't tell you how important that is, to really pray, because the monsters in all of this, they don't know how to pray. They don't know confession. They don't know repentance. They really don't. I mean, they you know and and so we need to pray that because only God can do it. Only God can do this. Only God can change hearts. Only God can change a stone heart to a flesh heart. And I just over 5.5 years, I can tell you right now, they just can't do it without God. They just can't. It is just so groomed in them, so uh, hypnotized in them, um, propagandized in them, that what they're doing is okay. And we're talking about the owners of the Plenitude Crematorium. I mean, the crime that they have committed is bigger, way so much bigger than the Walmart mass shooting. It's the level of hum- crimes against humanity in what Plenitude Crematorium and the rest of their crimes, okay? Because they dominoed out the rest of their crimes from this narco rat infested, maggot infested crematorium where we believe our son's remains ended up. That's why it's so personal to us. That's why we have to come on, because it's not just Richard's body, it was other bodies. And it's linked to El Carmen, it's linked to El Diablo, who was carrying out these illegal C-sections um, ripping babies out of these young mothers' bodies, and then not stopping there, harvesting their organs. And this is all part of this funeral fraud business, and it's all coming out, and it's absolutely a horror. For us to deal with day in and day out. And we couldn't do it without your prayers, without the protection of God on all of this, because it is, it's horrible. It's terror. These are terrorists. They really are. And so these crimes against humanity, uh, are connected. They have to be secure. These crimes are so big that you have to have a security system behind it, right? You have to have guns behind it. You have to have fuel behind it. And you have to have a cover. And the cover is things that we love, things that are good. So they cover with churches, with Christianity, with adoptions, with crisis pregnancy, you know, um, they cover with Miss Universe pageants, right? Because when you think of a Miss Universe pageant, you think, oh, wow, that is just so awesome. You have all these very beautiful, talented young women coming together to get scholarships, right? They can show us what they can do with their dancing, their music abilities, um, uh, cooking abilities, their fashion abilities, all of these things. And you think, oh, this is a beautiful thing. But we've been following this scandal very closely. And I'm going to share a little bit about it now because it's very connected. Now, what's really crazy is that Raúl Raúl Rocha. I mean, we've heard that name before, right? It's always like these same names, right? It's like the same names in this. Um, so Raúl Rocha Cantú, and I hope I'm saying that name right. Um, uh, really has exposed. Okay, so he was arrested in November of 2025, and he swiftly went into protective witness status. Okay, that means that he's singing. Okay, that means that he's talking. That means he's making plea deals. Okay, and so he, it seems like he's spilling everything, right? Um, and he had a company for security, and the guns that they were using for this security, uh, they were tampering with the serial numbers, okay, on the weapons. And this is really important because we know that there's a weapon smuggling and trafficking coming out of Fort Bliss, and the only way they would um, get away with this is if they tampered with the serial numbers. And we have evidence indicating that's exactly what was being done. And so, this case, where he's admitting that they're tampering with the serial numbers, is corroborating evidence of the evidence that we have. And so it makes this very, very important because we know about Fast and Furious, right? The United States selling weapons. And this is like our evidence um, indicates that this is a humongous, this is a Fast and Furious times 10, if it might be bigger than that, but it's a Fast and Furious like times 10. Someone said something like that on a comment, and I was like, yeah. They said this is like a Fast and Furious. I'm like, yeah, you're right, absolutely. So So Rocha had a private security uh, company. It was called Setter. I hope I'm saying that right. That restamped the rifles that were illegal as legal, and did the all the paperwork. And the paperwork had to go through um, where is it at? Um, has a name to it when I get to it. And they were doing this all under the cover of this Miss Universe. And I hope I'm saying this right, because he was also stealing fuel. He was stealing fuel. He had which is all of our evidence. I want to say confirms, but I'll say indicates, but it is big evidence that they were stealing fuel from Fort Bliss. But he was accused, alleged, I guess, of stealing it from Pemex. So Pemex is the Mexican government owned oil, right? So this is the people's oil in Mexico. And where did we hear that from? The siphoning and stealing of oil. Well, we heard it from Cesar Peniche, from his Carvel, right? Carvel, his Carvel uh, little companies, little businesses that popped up, these little gas stations that popped up everywhere. And where was he getting his fuel? Billions of barrels from Pemex, siphoning out of those pipelines, Pemex. So we have the security system, we have the weapons, we have the fuel, and yeah, another lady that was, and I'm going to read some of Laura's. Let me read Laura's comments. Yes, thank you so much. Um, God is bringing his army together. Richard and our loved ones who have been wronged by these evildoers are also helping us in this battle, the heavenly realm as well. Oh, absolutely. And I really believe that because I believe in angels. So, and I can tell you right now, there's been so many miracles through this. And, I have several people wishing bad things upon me, but I have a whole hedge of angels around me. Um, and lots of prayers. So, they're just nothing. They're just like dust in the wind, and God just blows them away. They're just lightweights, and I have the heavyweight champion of the universe on my side. So, um, uh, yeah, that's why we've been able to do this for almost 2,000 days. 2,000 days. Can you imagine? That's what's coming up. 2,000 days. You know, eh, it's just shocking when you say that, right? It's just shocking. I don't know who else has ever done this, right? Probably President Trump. Probably President Trump. 10 years. 10 years of, endless um, battling back to these evildoers. It's very clear. And I can tell you there's so many compromised people in the middle, right? uh, that just went with the wind. And it takes special people to stand against the wind when it's not popular, right? When you don't think you have a chance, and it's so easy to compromise during that time, right? So it takes amazing people to stand up when you think that uh, you're up against a Goliath, right? So really amazing. Remember when President Trump wanted to ban Muslims in 2017? Well, he wasn't being racist. No, he wasn't being racist. I mean, they have their countries, right? And you know, uh, it's only merciful to say, go to your country where you have your Sharia law, where you have um, your buildings of worship, where you have your culture, where you have your food, where you have your schools, well, where you have um, your laws, right? Your courts. Go and go back to your country where you have that, right? And don't take away our culture, our laws, our schools, you know, and so, it's just the right thing, and it's not racist. I think it's more respecting their who they are than to bring them into a mix where they can't peacefully, or they can't have the Sharia. They have to force upon the culture a Sharia law or a building of worship or whatever, and not feel welcomed, and have uh, strife. Go back and enjoy your country, right? And make your country great. Make your country, if that's what you think makes your country great, well, then make your country great. And, so I think that's how President Trump thinks. That's how I think. You know, um, y- I remember the European Union. Um, wasn't in existence. You had Europe, you had Germany was Germany. Germany was sovereign, France was sovereign, Italy was sovereign, and they had their languages, they had their money, they had their cultures, and it was magnificent. Because my mother's from the border of in Germany of France, and I drive 20 minutes, and I was in France. I was in France. I had to speak French. I had to use the franc. The bakeries were different. So the food was different. The culture was different. The time you ate in the day was different. I mean, it was just very different. The clothes were different, and there was more peace. Now, there's more strife with a quote unquote union, right? With a quote unquote union. It's like they want everyone to live in the same house, right? They want everyone to live in the same house instead of giving each person their space. Um, it's it's just doesn't make any sense what they're trying to do. It's very destructive. It really is destructive, and the way they frame it is that if you don't want to cram everyone in one house, uh, and the people in the house are not happy about it, then you're not humane, or you're not, or you're racist, or you're this, or you're that. It's like, no, that's not true at all. It's like, it's just that we want our own space. Everybody wants their own space. How many of the kids in your family say, I want my own room, I want my own room? That doesn't mean that they don't like their sibling. They just want their space, you know? So, anyway, I didn't mean to go on that tangent, but I want to get back to this Rocha. Rocha, like, like Berlin Rocha, right? I mean, this name pops up again, but this is not Berlin Rocha. This is um, a Raúl Rocha, and Berlin Rocha has a Raúl Rocha in her family, but this is a different Rocha, and he apparently used his Pemex money from stealing oil from the people of Mexico, right? Because if you're stealing from Pemex, you're stealing from the people of Mexico, to pay a bribe to get his choice of Miss Mexico crowned as Miss Universe. And so it is the glamour on the stage, blood money in the bank. The same dirty fuel profits that paid for the guns um, are now paying for this bribe. Um, so it's And of course, our son Richard was whistleblowing about this gun smuggling, about this about the criminal trafficking. If it wasn't bolted down, they would want to traffic it. And I'm talking about parts, I'm talking about vehicles, I'm talking about weapons and ammunition and substances and people and children. And 500,000 children were then, went turbo force. It went turbo in March of 2021, and you'll see a lot of things happening starting in March of 2021 that went very, very bad, and that's 500,000 children trafficked, and we don't know where they went. They'll say, "Oh, we found 160," but we're talking about not 100,000, not 200,000, not 300,000, not 400,000. We're talking about over 500,000 children trafficked, 500,000, um, in just a short time. And that's just that short time. So, so this beauty pageant, right, from Miss Universe to Missing Remains. Let's talk about those missing remains, because that leads to Plenitude Crematorium, that leads to El Paso, that leads to the officials that as you see in Raúl Rocha's case, you'll see that it mirrors what's going on in El Paso with the same corrupt officials allowing this, participating, engaging, and this happening. And then if there's a whistleblower, to scrub them out. To scrub them out, meaning their paperwork, their stories, their lives, just scrubbing them out. So enough is enough. Enough is enough. We see it everywhere, this same pattern, this same fraud, taking advantage of American taxpayer money or taking advantage of the Mexican people's oil and diesel, right, from this Pemex. Um, Lots of money. They are just stealing, stealing, stealing. And what are they doing with that? They're also, from the United States, of course, stealing the weapons. And I've had a lot of people say with the Gulf area, the CIA is providing weapons to Mexico or the cartels and all that. I've had a lot of that. And you know what? I don't dispute that because we have the likes of Connell Wetton, right? The assistant special agent in charge of the El Paso FBI field office that we have confirmed is up to no good with loyalties that go to Woody Hunt, loyalties that go to Woody Hunt's faction, which is a cartel, but Mormon, a cartel tied, but a Mormon faction, right? And and to be in this huge position as assistant special agent in charge in the El Paso field office, that's a huge position. Um, to be dirty like this, right? To be dirty and anti-American, right? To have the loyalties down in Colonial Juarez, to have loyalties to this faction that that you would allow these weapons, that you would allow the bodies, right? The bodies allow Plenitude Crematorium to operate, right? To allow Michael Mayella to be hiding out when he is the family of Patrick Crucius in the Walmart mass shooting case. The shooter in the Walmart mass shooting case, his family is right there in the federal courthouse in El Paso, Texas, is right there in the district attorney's office in El Paso, Texas, is right there in the FBI field office in El Paso, Texas, is at Texas Tech University Health Science Center, is there at Walmart, Walmart Cybersecurity. Um, this is a Mayella family, the Crucius family, and it shows you the level of corruption that would allow that to be kept a secret. When you hear about mass shooters, they go right to the family and they start asking questions. Why didn't they do that to in Patrick Crucius's case? They covered it all up. They covered up his severe autism, his severe mental health. And and they allowed Plenitude Crematorium to operate. They allowed Rosemary Arliano Ramirez, that's the last name of the lady that was arrested with this Raúl Rocha, La Fiscal, she goes by. Are they, two peas in a pod? I think there's a good chance they're two peas in a pod because, if you're in the cartel business, you're going to know who's who and you're going to be overlapping and everything. And they are both into the cartel fraud business and high stakes. This is not like a bunch of thug looking people. Even though they're thugs, they're monsters. But these are people that dress in tuxes, that dress in very expensive gowns and clothes and everything like that. A lot to money launder, that have a connection to Salvador Purchase, the multimillionaire, um, uh, huge conglomerate of funeral homes that are international, transnational, and so and to more, they all overlap. It's like they're uh, you can't say Bill Hicks didn't know who Michael Mayella was, the federal courthouse manager, because they work together, right? They work together. And of course, he can't say he didn't know who was in the DA's office with Jaime Esparza. Um, you can't say he didn't know Delia Briones because he was working for um, Salvador Purchase Funeral Homes. Bill Hicks was, and do all this paperwork. So it's kind of like the paperwork that had to be done in Mexico for these guns. For these guns, all this so paperwork needs to be done for these bodies, and we know that you have over 400 tampered death certificates. They have to be because the whole body, the whole everything about these bodies were tampered with, and so the records are tampered with, and and we even know that in the Walmart mass shooting, uh, paperwork was tampered with. So that all of this is being exposed and more is going to come out because there's a lot more that we know here. But as we fine tune it to present to everybody, uh, as this is exposed, it needs to be shared. It needs to be shared and shared and shared because the more people that know and learn about it, they might be shocked at the beginning. Like, no way, not all of these agencies could be infiltrated, could carry out such operations. Um, but the evidence is there and it says they do and they have. And that's why I put out all of those images, all of those memes to connect all the dots for everybody so that they know that Ricardo Samaniego is no good, that they know that Veronica Escobar is no good. And even on the Republican side, that Ted Cruz is no good, right? Ted Cruz is no good. He walked the scene. That Abbott is no good. Abbott is one of the most powerful men in the world, right? Um, he could have stopped all of this, right? He is up to no good. and we know that he's up to no good. Um, and we also know that Woody Hunt is up to no good and has a lot of power and is the peer to Twiggs, right? Jerry Twiggs in the Charlie Kirk case. And then also with George Soros, with George Soros. So the big and if that's the case, then can we say with Jeffrey Epstein? Okay, how did Jeffrey Epstein get all that wealth, that unexplained wealth? So, and we know that the sex cult is part of this too because it compromises people where they can control them, right? They want to control the people so that that's part of their to compromise whistleblowers, to compromise anybody that might get in the way of their illegal businesses. And their illegal businesses are so bad, y'all. They're so bad. So, please keep sharing, share, so that this transparency can get out there, and then we can get more answers for the sake of El Paso, for the sake of Chihuahua, for the sake of Texas, for the sake of the United States, for the sake of Mexico, for the sake of the world. The transparency, people don't understand how important and how powerful a share is. Just sharing the information. That's why the whole 2020 COVID thing was all about standing 6 feet apart and closing your mouth and not talking to anybody and not, because that covered up Richard's case, that covered up the Walmart case, that covered up a lot of questions in all of this, and it diverted attention. And I think that this Miss Universe is also diverting attention from many of the things that we have pointed out um, in the recent days. So share, and connect the dots. Fortunately, because this is what it is, it's so connected to Richard's case. And this is how we can bring out Richard's case again, even under this kind of story of um, the Miss Universe. So let me read Danielle's and yeah, Pete Hegseth to bring justice for Richard Halliday. Yes, thank you so much. Um, and I absolutely said prayers today for uh, for the two lost souls in Washington D.C. Unnecessary, absolutely unnecessary, and uh, it seems that President Trump means business. Absolutely. Which now makes sense why the main suspect in Richard Halliday's wife sells life insurance. Doesn't seem to be a coincidence, in my opinion. Exactly. They were all into the insurance, life insurance. They were all into fraud. Any way that they could misuse our system and steal from it fraudulently for death benefits, for unidentified migrant humanitarian aid benefits, any way they can do it with insurance, with whatever. They were going to do it. And they do it under the guise of, don't forget, they'll do it under the guise of being a Christian church or a Christian NGO, right? So you have to be really, really careful because uh, people know and trust, um, long history of going to Christians for help and humanitarian aid. Um, they target Christians for the Walmart mass shooting victims funds, and then they were misusing them. I can tell you right now that there was fraudulent distribution of the Walmart mass shooting victims fund, which was controlled by El Paso Community Foundation. which is the parent company of El Paso Matters. So everything kind of makes sense when you start connecting all the dots and know all this information. And people need to know all this information because uh, they know that Christians will donate, that their heart will absolutely go out to these people, and so they, under the guise of a Christian agency, say, "Oh, I'm for crisis pregnancy. I'm going to help adopt. I'm going to help do this," um, and then they're up to no good. So that's why this is so important to hold these accountable, because we cannot break down this trust, because people depend on a volunteer spirit. They depend on a good Samaritan, right? And we don't want to I don't want to live in a society that doesn't have a good Samaritan culture. You know, it goes to that stabbing on that North Carolina train, right? Nobody wanted to help because they were so afraid. They were so afraid that they, might get sued or might get this. So we need to get this out there, be transparent, to change, to hold the criminals accountable, the ones that want to impersonate, the ones that want to be fraudulent, the ones that want to be deceptive, and hold them majorly accountable. So, thank you so much, Danielle, for making that point. Um, on his house being next to Beto O'Rourke. Absolutely. It's not a mistake that Rafael Ariano's Quran's house was right next to Beto O'Rourke. Okay, that's not a mistake. And everyone knew who they were. Everyone, because they fine dined together. They fine dined together. They're the ones that did the fundraising together and the fine dining together and the colluding together and everything. Okay, the property, and I haven't really mentioned this, but it's all about these LLCs and the property, the real estate, all of that stuff. This is all overlapping, and they sell to each other's their houses, and then they move right next door, and then they do the. I mean, we have documented this and we have filed this, and so we know what we're talking about because of all of that research. So this a has a lot to do with LLCs. I'm going to tell you, in Richard's case, it's all about LLCs. Okay, that is that's the paperwork, right? That's the paperwork, and that's why we brought up Chris Martin again. It's all about the LLCs, and it's all being revealed to everybody. Okay, Ted Cruz was told to take a hike from the POA, and he listened, acted concerned in Richard Halliday's case, and did nothing. He did not forget. He's up to no good. He has his eye on the presidency, and I hope he doesn't get it because he's up to no good. And and there's more. He walked a crime scene before it was even secured. Um, that's a no-no. That's illegal. And the brazen act of doing that, because he knows that. He's no dummy. The one thing you can say about Ted Cruz is he's no dummy. I mean, he was smart enough to write that amazing letter. But where were the celebrations, congratulatory letters when Richard received the in the line of duty designation, right? And where was all the investigations for that, right? Because that means that this is absolutely a big open case. And yeah, so you can tell by their deeds that they're what they're up to. And the results that we're getting back is from President Trump, not from a Ted Cruz, and that's too bad. That's too bad. So, same thing for the mental institutions where CPS wants to send you. Yeah, well, they use the mental institutions to make you an unreliable source, right? That's what they try to do with me. They try to say I was delusional, that I'm just a crazy mother. No, we have hard evidence that confirms what I'm saying. We have absolutely hard evidence, and now it's coming out and coming out. And you have Tulsi Gabbard, DNI, absolutely with proof, with Martha Aguilar Mendez as being La Diabla, right? Doing the most horrific things. And we've been telling you that this is absolutely the most horrific things that are being done. And so then, when we were saying our evidence says that Richard was dismembered, um, and he was buried in many different places, including being brought over to Mexico. The La Diabla that corroborates all of that, and we have more. We have more that corroborates it. So, um, the in the line of duty absolutely confirms that we're not crazy, that I'm not crazy, that I'm not delusional, that Richard is a stellar soldier and a hero, and an absolute hero. So please share, 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 and we will be back tomorrow, God willing. Thank you so much for coming on, and all of they are the ones delusional. Absolutely, Laura. They are absolutely delusional. Thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be